Hi, Zeke. I welcome everyone. Today we are recording another episode dedicated to investments. I invite you to watch until the end so you can see how such an investment calculates, how much it costs, and if you can make money on it. The total comes to 230,000 zlotys. How much will we earn from this? Such a plot must be fenced, serviced, all legal issues settled, construction reported, and only then can we build. The house is almost 5 meters high. There is also a mezzanine inside, which is also usable. It can be used as a sleeping space. The house itself surprises with its compactness and the number of rooms inside, as we have a kitchenette, a living room, a bathroom, 2 rooms downstairs, and the aforementioned mezzanine. You could just as well enclose this mezzanine all the way to the top and add a window on the other side. Thanks to this, we would gain an extra room in the attic. It pays off more, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about a flip, short-term or long-term rental, the numbers simply speak for themselves. 30% return. We are back at a place we have visited before, less than 60 kilometers from Warsaw. For those who haven't seen those episodes, check the link in the description below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything else. And today, I will show you 3 houses for the price of an apartment. Each one is ready to move into right away. Unfortunately, only 2 have already been sold. 1 is left. So first come, first served. From here, let's just take one more look at them. From the road, we have 3 buildings, 1, 2, and 3, each with a footprint of 35 meters and about 44 meters of usable space. That is a lot of room inside where you can both live and relax. Depending on what you choose and what purpose you decide to use them for, there are many uses for the modular homes that we produce. They can be vacation homes, year-round residences, or even good for commercial spaces. But today we will focus mainly on investment purposes, meaning what you can do with such a house. You can rent it out short-term, you can rent it out long-term, or you can do a so-called flip. And today we will deal exactly with this issue, that is a flip on a property with a house. Previously, and likely for most, flipping was known from the housing market. Someone would buy an apartment in a difficult legal state or one needing renovation, finish it and bring it to a point where the end client could come in, literally hand over the keys, pay the price, and the transaction would be complete. With a plot, there are a few more things involved, like organizing a land subdivision, equipping the land with utilities, or handling the paperwork. But it is certainly an operation that pays off. Today we will go into this house, which we have here as one of 3. We will show how they are finished, how they are equipped, and at the end I will show you whether you make money on this or not. I think you will definitely be shocked by the benefits that can come from this. But before we go in, I'll show you a little treat. We'll head over to the house we have. Here, it is a bit smaller. We also built it. 21 square meters of building footprint with almost 30 square meters of usable space inside. Why so much usable space on such a footprint? Because it is a bit taller. There is also a mezzanine. The terrain here is very demanding, so the operator has to be careful not to trip. It might shake a bit, but that is normal in these conditions. We like our work, although we preferred it when it was summer. It was a bit warmer here. As I said, 21 square meters of footprint, but it turned out quite nice. A good product for short-term rental doesn't take up much space on the plot, and it rents for 350 to 450 zlotys. You could rent out a building like this. Let's go this way and show you what it looks like. These 35 square meter buildings, one of which we will enter in a moment, or slightly larger ones, can be rented for between 450 and about 800 zlotys per night in season. If this building is working for 60% of the cime, we can earn about 10,000 a month from it. Look at how this building looks. The facade is painted gray. Windows start anthracite frames. It turned out quite neat, and here we have a fire pit area, and from this spot we can see the whole clearing, such pristine land where it is great to come and relax, especially when living in Warsaw every day. Let us walk over here. Let's show how the building looks from the front and through which window you can view the scenery you just saw. There is a large window here, 2 meters by 1.5 meters, plus extra lighting at the top. So there is really a lot of space. There is a small kitchenette, a bathroom, a mezzanine above, and a living room downstairs. But that is not what today is about. We will talk about renting in future episodes. Today, we will go into a building that serves as a flip investment. And after walking around the outside and going inside, we will talk about how much you can earn from it. Of course, that you can earn more or less depending on your experience in this field. And that experience, you don't gain that experience anywhere else, but in practice or by working with companies like ours, which will show you and guide you through this process so that you can get through it unscathed, through all the formalities or extra fees, which can really be quite a lot during renovations or construction. Before we go into this house, a few more words about the plot itself. A large plot of about 3,000 to 4,000 meters divided into smaller ones. Here are the remaining 3 plots of 1,000 meters each. There is a building on each one. You need to fence such a plot, provide utilities, settle all legal issues, report the construction, and only then can you build. So depending on where you carry out such an investment, there is really a lot to do, and most people would probably be interested in such an investment. However, there are a number of things they are afraid of. We are fully aware of this, which is why we invite you to contact us for more details. If you want to invest in such a project but have all legal matters settled and know the costs involved so that nothing surprises you, we invite you to watch our previous video. The link is also in the description. There is an investment for 120 plots, a large pond with an island. There is space for short-term rental houses, long-term rental houses, and the costs of this investment are definitely guaranteed. So, I cordially invite you, and let us head on to the property grounds. The whole plot is really tastefully done here, nicely brought into such good order. There are no bushes here. The trees, however, were left. It is very nice that the investor did not cut them down. Most people clear cut everything. Some leave too much, but here everything is done very optimally. You can also see that a tree grows right out of the terrace, so just huge respect for not condemning it to firewood or a bonfire. Instead, it was incorporated into the surroundings we see here. The birds are chirping. It is already winter, but despite that, it is truly charming here. And the view we can see looking through some of the windows in the house or from behind the fence is also so soothing. Especially nowadays, when we turn on the news, we are constantly bombarded, literally bombarded with information that we would rather not read. Let's walk around the house and go inside. So at the front, we have a pergola with a terrace, a perfectly integrated tree, and the entire facade is made of sheet metal. Why sheet metal? One could discuss this at length. Some prefer wood, some prefer sheet metal, and others prefer composite. In any case, this facade definitely ensures that the building is maintenance-free. You don't have to paint it, and it is resistant to all external factors. At the back, we have the hookups for the outdoor air conditioning units and two small windows that look out onto these beautiful natural surroundings. There is also a water connection somewhere back there behind the building and one for the septic tank. There is electricity as well. There is an outlet here. This is just a temporary connection. Masakodesh Kabashi, please ignore it for now, but at this stage, we can also power a building like this directly from a generator. So if you live somewhere remote, we don't need to install a traditional power box. We can use a box that acts as an adapter, technically called a sleeve, and connect this cable to a generator. So if a pole falls down, because it happens in places far from, I'll call it a lack of civilization, where power outages happen, especially in winter or during storms when a branch falls or a tree topples over and the power goes out. Then we can temporarily connect it to a generator or use an energy bank, which you can also, which we can price for you. Come on, let's go inside. Let's take a look at the front of this house. How does it look? The house is almost 5 meters high. There is also a mezzanine inside, which is also functional. It can be used as a sleeping area. The house itself surprises with its compactness and the number of rooms inside. Hocomo size, as we have a kitchenette, a living room, a bathroom, 2 rooms downstairs, and the aforementioned mezzanine, which gives this house a completely different charm than a single-story house would have. On the outside, there is a parrot. Baling. There is a wooden facade in a natural shade. It really suits this terrace and the tree growing right out of the middle. A cool pergola with lights, which we will also feature later. And I invite you, let's go inside this building and show you what it looks like and how it was finished. Entering the building, we find ourselves right in the living room, connected to the kitchen. There's about 15 square meters of usable space here, but it really feels like much more due to the high ceiling, almost 4.5 meters high. It is very spacious and airy here, and you do not feel the size of the space at all. There is room for a sofa and a dining table. There is a flip chart here where we will show you the calculations for this investment later, because that is probably why you are watching, to know how much it costs and if you can make money on it. Every wall of this building has a window, either smaller or larger. Here we have a 2x2 window. The doors are also glazed to ensure this house and these rooms get plenty of light during the day. A large kitchen. I think it is really quite big for a house of this size. There is extra space for cabinets and cupboards, where we will have plenty of room to store various products and items for the plot. And from the kitchen, there is an entrance to the bathroom. A toilet, a vanity with a sink, a shower, and a compact tankless water heater, so that it does not take up much space. The water heats up on demand, so there is no need to store it in a large tank. Additionally, there is an entrance to the mezzanine, which we will go up to in a moment, and 2 small rooms. One where we can fit a single bed or a bunk bed and some small cabinet. It can also serve as a utility room. The second room is slightly larger. We can easily fit a double bed and a wardrobe here. We also have a window with a beautiful view of the surroundings. And finally, a little treat. We will go up to the mezzanine, which despite the small entrance is really enjoyable once you are up there. So let us go upstairs. They are comfortable, and I say that because when we were here in the summer, there was a ladder, and it is definitely more comfortable to walk up these stairs than to climb up like a firefighter on a ladder. Look how spacious it is here, about 15 square meters of floor space. Well, floor space in the attic, minus the part taken up by the stairs. And I can stand here freely and comfortably. So, it is definitely a wonderful space, fine for storage and perhaps for the kids to play. Look at the view from this mezzanine. There is a lot of space here. It is spacious, but if we wanted to, we could just as well enclose this mezzanine all the way to the top and put a window on the other side. Thanks to this, we would gain an extra room in the attic. Let's go downstairs to summarize this investment and say if the investor finally made a profit. We walked around this investment from the outside and saw 3 houses for the price of an apartment, each with a very nice layout, very tastefully decorated. They look great from the outside. Inside, the rooms are very functional, well finished, and the whole building is very economically heated by air conditioning units like the ones you can see behind me. They work a bit like a heat pump, taking 1 kilowatt of energy and producing about 3 kilowatts of heat. That is why this is definitely more efficient heating than using heaters or electric mats. But I'm sure most of you would like to move on to the summary. So let's head over to our flip chart and write it all down. I will add that when it comes to investments in land with houses, you must be prepared for the fact that many things can happen along the way, many variables can appear. I think this topic is a bit more complicated legally and formally than an investment like a house flip or short-term or long-term rental. However, it is definitely more profitable. Why is it more profitable? Because firstly, times are no longer as favorable for flippers and those investing in rentals, very high financing costs, very low demand. There is definitely demand in the market, but there are limited options for people wanting to buy a property for themselves. That is why we are likely heading towards the Western model, where we will be renting these properties. With houses, I think a new market could open up, where customers will always be able to afford this product. Remember, we are in a house for the price of a studio apartment. 320,000 is the amount you have to pay, and that is, I think, for today, about 20 to 25 square meters in Warsaw. On the channel of an influencer who talks about loans, he listed such an apartment of 36 square meters for about 570,000. The amount he wanted to get for this apartment is about 16,000 per square meter. I think, and we are not talking about some property in the city center or downtown here. We are talking about the Włoki district in Warsaw, so we are definitely a bit further out, but we have our own sanctuary, peace and quiet, a bit of a garden, and 44 square meters of usable space inside, which consists of 2 separate rooms, a large living room with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a mezzanine. As for the investments and breaking down how it finally turned out for the investor per 1 unit, we will write it down like this. Plot plus U for utilities. Das är sanningsman Slobdevent write about utilities on the board because we already have a tense enough situation abroad. 70,000 zlotys as for the house, which is which is in a shell state. It cost the investor about 120,000. The prices are from last year. You would have to search high and low for such prices now. Prices have soared, and today we would probably have to estimate this investment at around 150,000, but the final price would certainly have to be higher than 2, and finishing this building. Finishing at 40,000 per square meter, the total comes to 230,000 zlotys. How much will we make on this? That of course depends. It depends on what we sell it for. It depends on that finally transaction price. Here, the investor expects a sale of 320,000 zlotys, which is a profit of about 90,000. The return on such an investment would then be about ROI, that is a return on investment of about 30%. Of course, it is also important how quickly we get back the money we invested. The houses were finished here in the spring. Today, 2 out of 3 are already sold, and the last one is waiting for its buyer. So in less than a year, we have a return on 2 of these buildings. Of course, we must also mention that there will be taxes here that need to be paid. And if you are not using your own funds, then the interest from the capital you invest. Those are the figures from the investor's side. And how does it look from the buyer's side? The buyer can use cash, or if they do not have such funds, get a loan. So, to get a loan of 320,000, a loan for 320,000 with a 20% down payment will cost about 2,150 zlotys per month. I think this is an installment that most people wanting to buy such a house can handle and afford. However, it all depends on specific cases. I will just add that this installment amount is currently presented with very high interest rates of around 7%. So it could be a bit higher or a bit cheaper, of course, depending on when you are watching this video and what the rates are at that time. Let's move on to a brief summary of this investment and the whole issue of investing in houses. Investing in houses, even though it is a bit more complicated than investing in apartments, is definitely more profitable. And it doesn't matter if we are talking about a flip, short-term or long-term rental. The numbers simply speak for themselves. 30% annual return is a very good return for an investor. Of course, we can multiply this, meaning we can do 2, 3, or 4 such builds a year. Subscribe to the channel to learn more about this topic and to see what short and long-term rental investments look like. We have an investment that we would also like to invite you to. The video is in the comments below. An investment in Rasibori, 120 plots, less than 30 minutes from Warsaw. Additionally, a pond of about 2 hectares, a large island for events. Around the island are recreational areas and plots for buildings for short-term rentals, as well as long-term rentals, or simply the option to buy a house for yourself, the possibility of building a house and selling it in season. Remember that autumn and winter are a good time to think about such an investment and to be ready for spring, when everyone remembers to go for a barbecue on their plot. From this position, I thank you sincerely and invite you to the next episodes of the investment series and to follow our channel. Bye. Dați, meți, baie, nas, iacărăse, natăță,